And then I crush it, tell my girl why I'm so bold. Until she trusts it. I'm like the world inside a snow globe. Rap for the memory. Painted murals. So I'm driving down the street. 14-year-olds in the passenger seat. I'm driving the Subaru, so not aggressive. And we get cut off by some idiot. Cut off. And I think this guy, he saw me. He did that on purpose. I know he saw me, and I know he did it on purpose. And I think, okay, the next stoplight, we wind up next to each other. So I kind of nod like, hey, what's the deal? So he rolls his window down. Well, what's up? So we go back and forth. And I think, okay, well, she's in the car. She's in the passenger seat. And this is probably not a good idea. What happens if it goes sideways, and how she get home if I'm incapacitated? How do I explain if she gets hurt? Let this guy get on about his day. We go down the street. Now, I was a cop for a long time. She knows that, but she's never witnessed it. She's never seen it. I'm the guy who's at home with the pizza money and let's play catch and let's hang out and let's talk about your boy problems. I'm that guy, right? And then so she kind of looked and she was real confused what happened, and she basically didn't know that I had that level of aggression inside. And that was like 10 out of the 100% just because she was there. What am I really going to do? I'm responsible. I have to set the tone in life. Nobody's going to walk all over us, but also you got to know when to quit. I'm not 20. I can't be out, wrestling dudes that I don't know. That's not the move. Anyway, make a long story short. How well do your kids know you? Who you are? I've been running around telling dad jokes forever. And I always think like one day she's going to realize that I'm legitimately funny. But up to this point, I'm like 7-year-old funny, 10-year-old funny, dad joke funny, corny, whatever it is. But how well do they know you? Do they know all of the things that you've gone through, all of the things that have built you into who you are? Do they know your relationship with their parent, whether you're together or whether you're not? What things transpired? Are you close? Are you distant? Why is it either way? What things have you gone through that with your spouse or whatnot, or your partner, that they're just unaware of? Traumatic things that bring you closer together, that build your relationship. Do they know that? Conversely, how well do you know your kid? Just because you birthed them, just because you were there at the beginning and you could understand the different cries. Oh, that's the bottle cry and that's the diaper cry. Just because you could do all those things and you knew that they liked Sesame Street and not Teletubbies, and you knew that they liked only morning cartoons, and that's great. But how well do you know your kid once they start venturing into the world, once they start going to school and having friends and teachers and learning lessons, romantic lessons, platonic lessons, friendship lessons, career lessons? Those things shape and change people. They build people into who they are. And so how well do you know your kid more than you think you do? Have you taken the time to get to know the newest version of your child? Not the one that you remember, not the one that used to dance around in the living room, not that kid. That kid's gone. That kid has moved on and moved out. This is a whole other kid, right? And so 12 and 14 in my household, they're not the same kids, and they're turning into people with qualities, each of them, qualities that I like and cherish and qualities that I just don't like. And some of them are because they're young people, and some of them are because that's who they are. And me wishing that they weren't, me wishing that they were somebody else, me wishing and hoping that they'll change doesn't change how I need to deal with them, right? It doesn't dictate all of those things. I can't just hope they're great people and that's all there is to it. And I don't address the quirks and the faults and the struggles that each one of them has. And I think that as parents, we all too often sort of take for granted and just assume that we know our kids' ins and outs because they're our child, right? And that's how we get down these roads and go, oh my God, I didn't know that they were into this, and I didn't know that they were into that, and I didn't know that they were struggling or depressed or sad, or that they wanted to be a dancer and not a butcher, or whatever the situation is. How well do you know your kid? Because your kid doesn't know you. They didn't even start knowing you until you were 30, 35, however old it was. Right? They didn't even start. They have no clue except for the one-sided stories that you tell them how wonderful of an athlete you were, and then they meet your friends and realize that's not true at all. You know, I learned that. I mean, obviously over the course of time, but I learned just in that interaction that this kid looked at me like she had no clue what I was about. You have no clue what's going to happen in this circumstance, and no clue what I'm actually capable of. And you have no clue why your mother cares about me or why I care about your mother. You think, well, they're good together. They work really well together in raising me. That's a child's view. These people are at my disposal. They're here for me. And they don't understand that there's a relationship that has been and that is ongoing, right? Created, build, growing between you and your partner, you and your spouse. Whether it's a good relationship or not, whether you're together or not, it's ongoing, and it's an organic creation, right? And they have no clue of all the idiosyncrasies that happen in that relationship, right? And so they're going to be missing pieces of you, and they're going to be shocked at the goods and the bads, the adult version of yourself that you hopefully offer these kids as they grow up, right? At 14, I offer the 14-year-old version that she can handle, right? I don't offer her the 28-year-old version of me for her because she can't handle that. So I have to deal with it a different way. But as we get older, as the kids get older, you can offer them different versions of yourself, more natural, vulnerable, and real versions of yourself. What struggles do you actually have? You know, what shortcomings do you actually have? The good thing is to get out in front of it because they're going to figure it out anyway, right? If you're an alcoholic, you can hide it for a while. Eventually, the kids are going to figure it out. And if you haven't explained or worked through it or done something about it, then they just label you a drunk or missing or you know, neglectful. All of the bad qualities that are attached to, as an example, that are attached to this ill behavior that you have. They're going to find out stories of things that you did that you told them not to ever do. Right? And they're going to find out you did the exact same thing. And then your answer is going to be, hopefully it's, well, that's how I know that you shouldn't be doing it because I already did it. It was horrible. You know what I'm saying? So I try to be cognizant of each position the kids are in, what version of myself they can handle at that position, and then to market that, and then to figure out how do I elicit the most information that I can about each one of them. And each one they're in different positions in their life, so they get different versions of me, different ideas for me. I can talk differently around each kid because they're different kids and they're in different stages. Their friends are in different stages. So the directions that I give one are not the same directions that I give the other one. They're two different kids, you know, but you have to know how to work them. You know, my one kid is full of energy. He's just bouncing all over the place, just doing all kind of things. And so that guy needs stern. That's what he responds to. Male energy, stern energy, boundaries. She doesn't need that. She responds to respect and caring. The worst thing that she's ever heard is, I'm disappointed in you. He don't care. If I tell him I'm disappointed, he's like, well, nigga, you're going to be disappointed, I guess. For her, it's, oh my God, what did I do? I have to get that back. And you have to know which buttons to push with each kid. They change. You know, you have to know where they're at in their life, and they have to, as they grow up, they have to know who you are. And the only way that you're able to do those things is to introduce yourself, is to discuss things, is to, I mean, obviously tell stories, but take them where you grew up, take them around some of your experiences, the things that they can handle, because you don't realize they just look at you as mom or dad. That's how they see you. You're here for me, to nurture me as a child. And they don't realize that it's summer break, it's sleepover season. So every kid you bring over, I gotta feed. It sounds great. You come home from the party or the practice or the game or whatever, and there's potato chips and Sunny Delight, like that commercial, right? All these things are here, but how did they get here, right? We have to go grocery shopping. We have to write the check. They don't understand that unless you explain those things, unless you introduce who you are, what your struggles are, and who, all of the things that make you. You cannot take it for granted. And if you do, they're going to be operating with bad information, the same way you're operating with bad information about them. And bad information leads to bad decisions, bad planning, right? You're going to make bad moves based on this bad information, and it's never gonna coalesce in anything positive. It's just going to feel like a bunch of mistakes. So anyway, I can't stress enough, you don't know who your kids are unless you're interacting with them. And if you are basing who your kid is on ancient times, on your introduction to them when they were born, them as a child, them when they were isolated in your care at your house where you could control most of the influences that they got. If you are basing your knowledge and your interaction and your relationship with your child on that information, I guarantee you, the further away you are from that point, the less likely you know your kid, right? And let's say, for instance, we control every influence that our child has up until the time they're 5. Let's just say, for instance, well, if they're 7, that's 2 years you don't know. And if they're 30, that's 25 years of misinformation that you have, if that's where you base your relationship on. So you have to constantly grow and adjust and move and connect with these kids, because they'll slip away without information and without knowledge, and they'll just be out there floating around. And like I say all the time to mine, if you don't have a plan, you're just walking around looking. And that's when you get hit in the head. So anyway, long story short, know your kids, get to know them, participate with them, get to know their friends, because that's the influence, Introduce yourself. They're not going to know the things that you take for granted. Anyway, have a good day. Tune in next time.
Long road to defeat, so my quest is find a hero in the mirror and then arrest his dreams and his ego. He defenseless. Say the party for the guest list. Ain't nobody wanna test this. It's my illusion when my chest is feeling low and deflated and defeated. Where I hide this hint behind the places where my heart and my breast is. Maybe human, unimpressive.